This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Really excited. We have a pretty large group, so if everyone can just make sure their mics are muted. I've set this up as interactive, so we can take some questions. We'll take questions at the end, but ideally, if you just raise your hand, and then once I acknowledge you, you can unmute your mic. So yeah, thank you for joining. Today's webinar is going to be about staying out of spam jail. So focusing on email, texting, and even phone calls to make sure your phone doesn't show up as possible spam. So our attendees today, I'm so happy to bring these experts in their field to our team. So today we have Alex. Alex Shukov is a email deliverability compliance and security for emails. He's the founder of SH Consulting. So Alex, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Poland, correct?
Thank you, Mark. Yes, exactly. I'm located in Europe, in Poland, and I hopefully soon to be in the Eastern time zone because I'm going to move in Canada very soon, but let's see when and stuff like that.
Well, welcome. Okay, and Kyler Vandevalk from Follow Up Boss. She's a senior product support expert at Follow Up Boss. And thank you so much for joining us.
Hi. Hello.
And Enlay Chu from Productive AI. He's the founder and CEO, and he's going to help us as well with texting and phone best practices. So thank you for joining us.
Hi, yes, Productive.ai. Very nice to meet you. Thank you for having me, Mark.
My pleasure. Okay, so obviously we all as realtors see that deliverability has been for a while now becoming an issue. We're finding that even our text messages are getting filtered now by carriers. Our ISAs or even our own phones are being marked as possible spam. On emails, we're going to junk folders and spam folders. So as an industry and as a business owners, we need to start figuring out what can we do to mitigate that as much as possible. I think all of us are in a firm belief this isn't going to get any easier going forward. These restrictions are only going to get harder and harder. So sort of the elephant in the room that I want to talk about first was just making sure from a marketing point of view, we really need to start rethinking the way we are doing our marketing. So, the way of generating leads, we get their information and we need to be reaching out and contacting them. That has been the model for the last few years, but I think we're going to have to start changing back to marketing the way it used to be, was we need to get them to be contacting us. So I think every opportunity that you have to, through your marketing is making sure that they can text or call or email you, having chatbots on your website, or any way for them to be able to communicate directly with you is going to be a big benefit, because we all know it's only going to get harder. And if we have a large database and we're paying money to generate leads and we can't contact them or can't reach out to them, then that's just money down the drain. So all we can do right now is make sure all of us are doing everything we can to mitigate all of those things as much as possible. So one of the most important things to start off with is to make sure on the email side that your email is set up properly. So Alex, maybe you can talk about, as far as like let's start off with just your email address. So what sort of the difference was between, say, if my email was markjensen@gmail.com or markjensen@ylopo.com or mark@markjensen.ca?
Yeah, so the primary difference between these three accounts is the type of the account. So the first one is the personal Gmail account. The second one and the third one is a professional email address with the domain name of a company. So from the email deliverability perspective, it's super important for everyone to only use the professional email addresses for sending marketing email. And the reason for that is that by having the personal domain name, you have access to the domain control panel, to the DNS zone, and you have an ability to implement the DKIM signature, Sender Policy Framework, DMARC policy. These are email security protocols that affect your email deliverability in general, and of course, the email security. So you have more control over your email deliverability, email placement, domain reputation, IP reputation, and stuff like this. Because if you use a personal Gmail account and you send marketing emails from that personal Gmail account, you don't have an ability to monitor what's going on with your emails on the backend side. You also cannot bypass spam filtering systems that are on the incoming mail server, which of course affect negatively your email placement. So this is why the primary benefit of the professional email address is an ability to configure the email server, because this is where the email durability goes from.
Right. So, the key point for that is if you are going to be doing marketing and sending out, mass emails, if you're not using your domain name or don't have a domain name to register your email through, you're going to always have deliverability issues, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're never going to be able to overcome that, because there's things on the back end that needs to get done. Now, those things we can all do ourselves a little bit. It's certainly, it takes some tech experience. I know, Alex, you can, that's part of what your company does is to help set up people's email accounts and make sure that they're following all the correct protocols. And we can get into that. So let's just talk about a little bit, what is DNS? Because, we're throwing out these terms. So let's talk a little bit about it. What's DNS, DKIM, SPF, and DMARCs?
Thank you, Mark. So basically, DNS is a domain name system, and this is something where you need to make the implementations to. So you go to your DNS zone, domain name system, and this is usually the place where you purchased your domain name. So if you bought the domain with GoDaddy, your DNS zone is located in the GoDaddy account. If you purchase domain with Squarespace or Namecheap or Bluehost, whatever, your domain name system, your DNS zone is there. And you have to, in order to improve your email deliverability, you have to go to your DNS zone and implement the DKIM, SPF, and the DMARC records. I'm sure that almost everyone heard about these terms, but I'm not really sure that everyone understands what does this mean and why these email security protocols are so important for email deliverability. And to be honest, I will be frank with you, Mark. When you told me that you would like to organize such a webinar, I was thinking about how best to describe what does SPF, DKIM, and DMARC mean, and I got an idea on how to describe it the way so that everyone will understand. So here's the scenario. Just imagine that you're invited to a private party, and the private party is located in the nightclub, for example, and the nightclub is the email server. And there is a dance floor, and the dance floor is the inbox folder. There is a bar, the bar is a spam folder. And let's imagine that you first need to enter into the club, right? Into the email server. And you have a bouncer on the entrance, and the bouncer is the DMARC policy. And the DMARC policy, that bouncer, has only two conditions under which he will allow you to get in. The first condition is you have a personal invitation to join this party. The second condition is that you arrived at the party on the red Mercedes with a plate number 1234. And if you follow both of these requirements, you're eligible to get in. So the personal invitation is your DKIM signature. And the car with the plate number is your Sender Policy Framework, SPF record, with the IP address. The plate number is the IP address. So if the bouncer sees that you have the personal invitation, he simply scans the barcode and you're getting inside. If you don't have the personal invitation, but the bouncer sees that you arrived at the party on the red Mercedes with the plate number 1234, you are also eligible to get in. And once you are inside, you have a security guard, and this is a spam filtering system. And they check your purse, your bag, your pockets, your shoes, everything, all your personal belongings, and your personal belongings, your personal stuff is your email marketing best practice, and the security guard is a spam filtering system. So they check your spam trigger words, your domain reputation, your links in the email body, your spam report complaints rate, your IP reputation, your email signature, attachments, and stuff like that. And if everything looks good on the email side, on the front end side, in the email body, they allow you to get into the dance floor. If they see that your spam report complaints rate is too high, they send you into the bar so that you have to the spam folder and you have no chance to move out from the bar into the dance floor unless you fix your problems with the email body. So you eliminate spam trigger words, you remove links from your template, you improve your domain reputation and stuff like this. This is why these DKIM, SPF, and DMARC are so important, because they will allow you not only to get into the club, into the email server, but also to get into the dance floor, into the inbox folder. And if you don't have those email security implementations on the server in the DNS zone, you will not be even allowed to get into the email server, which will make you problems with email durability. So in other words, if you're on the Metallica concert and you might have lost your ticket on the mosh pit, right? And you are arriving into the party in the black Harley Davidson, they do not have any reason to let you in because the car is not aligned with the one in the instruction and you don't have your ticket. This is why your email will be rejected from the email server and you will receive a bounce back notification that you have to improve your DKIM signature or SPF record and stuff like this. This is why email security configuration like DKIM, SPF, DMARC are critically important for email durability. But at the same time, it's only 50% of email durability success, because email marketing best practices like spam trigger words, email templates, links, spam report complaints rate is also very important.
That is such a great analogy. I love that story. That's great. That's actually a really good way to explain it in a much more simple way, because obviously it is complex. But yeah, understanding that there are, that ultimately these companies are trying to, in the government as well, trying to reduce the amount of spam emails that we're all receiving, right? We all get a ton of them.
Yep.
And so all this is about is making sure, like, here are the set of rules that we all need to follow. And if you're not going to follow them, then you're going to be put into the spam folder. And if you get put into the spam folder too many times, it's going to ruin your reputation, and you're not even going to get into the club to begin with, right? So, so that's why I wanted to sort of start with making sure we have our emails set up correctly to begin with, and the DNSs and all of that configured properly, because that's going to let us to get into the club. If we don't even have that right, it doesn't matter all the other stuff. We haven't got into the club. Yes,
exactly. Previously, it was important to have everything at once at the very beginning. But right now, those Google Yahoo regulation that took effect on February 1st, the first thing that incoming email servers check is your email server configuration. And if you don't have DKIM, SPF, DMARC in place, there is absolutely no sense for them to check other stuff, because you're not allowed to get in.
Yeah, they're assuming everything else is not going to be compliant because you didn't even meet the first criteria. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some common email issues right now with just deliverability? Just basic things. Maybe like talk about how many. Say today I'm going to send out. I got my newsletter and I want to send out 10,000 emails today. So I send them all out, and what happens?
Well, these are two different questions. The first question is regarding the email sending volume. The second question is regarding the email deliverability issues. So the first, in order to succeed in sending 10,000 of emails to the list of database, you have to make sure that your email template, your email marketing strategy is aligned with the requirements of the incoming mail servers, so that their spam filtering systems will not block your emails. And normally there are probably 100 of different things you need to pay a maximum attention to, such as spam trigger words, your email personalization, list segmentation, the links and domain reputation, spam report complaints rate, and stuff like that. But I'm not going to focus on all of these things because I'm sure that most of our participants of the webinar, they have heard about spam trigger words, list segmentation a lot. However,
well, I don't know about list segmentation, but I would like to talk about that in a minute, because I think it's important as well, because it's something that isn't that difficult to do, but I don't think that information's out there yet, because I'm still seeing people sending out multiple thousands of emails all at once. So we can talk about that, but yeah, so and trigger keywords, we can send some documents out that, but those trigger keywords are pretty simple examples, like don't put cash in the title, like cash offers. Cash offers is, it's common in the US right now, but I can tell you that's going to get you in the spam. Anything to do with money or anything to do with those types of things is what is going, Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, all of those types of things that are traditionally spam, those are keywords that if they're especially in your header, they can be in your email body as well, but it's more of a filter if it's in your header or your title, right?
Yeah, but actually our industry, email industry, is growing, and spam filtering algorithms, they become more sophisticated each year. And right now we live in a world where we have a lot of AI, artificial intelligence, and everyone currently AI to build the email content, to build the blog. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
So everyone currently uses AI to generate some kind of content, to build blogs, to build email templates and stuff like that. And spam filtering systems, they can understand your copywriting style. And if spam filtering system that, for example, the new system that has been recently announced by Google, the first implementation since 2012, and right now, it can detect your copywriting style. And if this is not similar to what you always send to other people, it can recognize your email as spam. For example, if you have a lot of scammers or a lot of spammers who use ChatGPT to write some kind of email content, and they send emails to those people, for example, if all of those emails go to you, Mark, you mark consistently those emails as spam, 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 then if I will decide to use ChatGPT to create the similar type of content for my email, and even if I have all the necessary implementations, the DNS on and stuff like that, and compliant with all the regulations, but my content was built by ChatGPT, most likely my mail will hit your spam folder. And if everyone right now will go to the inbox folder and open the spam, and they will open the first spam email, most likely there will be a notification that this email is similar to the one that was previously recognized as spam. This is why it's so important to build your own email templates, not to use spam, not to use ChatGPT or other platform, but build your own unique content, because this will allow you to bypass spam filtering system. And of course, I know that you mentioned spam trigger words. I know that you mentioned list segmentation, and we're going to get back to this later. And one of the most important things that is overlooked is links in your email body, because links, of course, everyone heard that you shouldn't include more than 3 links in your email template. And this is a very great example, and this is a truth. But most important thing is the link reputation. For example, just imagine that I'm sending a newsletter to my subscribers to join this webinar, and I put the link into your website to complete the registration form. And just in case, so this is not true, this is just an example, in case your website so blacklisted, or if the IP address of your website is blacklisted, most likely my email will be filtered into the spam folder. And the reason for that is that incoming email servers and their spam filtering system, they will recognize that link as a potential phishing link because it's blacklisted in the multiple blacklists on the internet, across the internet, and the domain and the IP address. As a result, my emails will be placed into the spam folder, but I'm not sending spam, but the reason for this is because of the link, is because of the domain is blacklisted. So this is why every time when someone is planning to include their a lot of links in their email body, and I'm not talking about the links to Google, to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because of course all of those links, they have a very good reputation because all of those in the world, all of the people in the world are sharing those links. But I'm talking about the very great article from some kind of website. The first thing that you need to do is to check the reputation of that link and to check the domain name and check the blacklist. Yeah, domain name reputation, and check the blacklist, and to see if the domain list and if the domain name is blacklisted. Because if it does, there is a high probability that your email will be filtered into the spam folder. So this is something is critical right now. Email template.
Actually, one of the things we missed about right at the start, but now that everybody's here, I sort of want to talk about it now. I was going to bring it up, but I knew there'd be some stragglers in. But I think this is so important, is your list of who you're emailing to, right? So, I know you and I, Alex, talked about this in the past. So there has always been, people that buy phone numbers and people that buy email addresses. I can't stress this enough. You need to get rid of those and don't send any emails to or calls to those people anymore. Because if you're sending anything without express consent, you're going to ruin your reputation, and it's going to make it much more difficult to deliver the emails to the people that you do have consent to. So I know there's a lot of people, but when, and Kyle, you'll attest to this, we can go into that, is your CRM, how important it is to keep that CRM up to date, and that you're not sending either drip campaigns or mass emails out to people where your emails are bouncing, or that the email addresses aren't valid. So following up on the ones that are getting delivered, and there's issues with them, you have to continually be removing those people from your database. Otherwise, it's going to ruin your reputation. And again, back to what we've talked about, setting it up. How do you get success? You got to set it up to begin with. But then if you're sending emails out to to bad email addresses, or that they are getting marked as spam for whatever reason, you need to stop sending them. Otherwise, everything else that you're going to do isn't going to work either. So.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know who's. I'm trying to see who's got their microphone on. If everybody can just mute their mic, that would be great. Somebody's got it on.
Yeah, and this is a very good point. So keeping the database clean is a very important thing, because if you send a lot of emails to invalid email accounts, you receive a bounce back notification, and the incoming email servers and their spam filtering systems, they start considering that you do not know who you send emails to, that you do not know your database. As a result, they start considering you spammer, because everyone who sends emails, marketing emails to their database, they know that that person is still working with that company, and that person is still located at that state. So this is why it's critically important not only to do list segmentation, but also clean up your database. I would say when I used to work in the technology industry, we had the rule to clean up the database every 3 months. Right now, working in the real estate industry, I figured out that it will make more sense to clean up the database every 6 months, because most of the databases we have in the real estate consist of the personal Gmail addresses. When you work in the technology industry, most of the emails in your database are the professional ones. Right now in the real estate, it's Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, Hotmail, and similar email addresses. This is why cleaning up every 6 months will be reasonable to maintain your database clean. Another thing is list segmentation. And that's true that if you are planning to send 10,000 of emails in one campaign, this will hurt your email deliverability. Your
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that, and I'll just, there's different ways to segment your database, and I would like to get some opinions. But I won't say how or why you how to segment. But so, for example, like I have 6,700 email addresses that we send our newsletter to each month. So what I've done is divided it into 20 groups. So I sort of done it week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then within those, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. So I split it down to about 300 emails a day get sent out, and then every day it's 300. So that's sort of warming up my database. If I keep shrinking it or enlarging it, so then the next month I'm sending 400 out, next month I'm 500 out. That's the way to do it, to increase the amount of emails. If I just always send out 10 emails every day and then one day send out 10,000, what's going to happen?
Yeah, that will be a sudden spike in your email sending volume, and this will be a sign for spam filtering systems that your domain or your email account has been compromised and someone started distributing phishing link from your domain name, because this email sending volume is not usual for your domain, for your email server. This is why when you decide to increase the number of people who will be receiving your weekly newsletters, for example, you need to gradually increase your email sending volume. So today you send, this week, let's say you send 1,000 of emails. Next week, you're going to send 2,000 of emails. The third week, you're increasing to 4,000 of emails and stuff like that. So increasing your email sending volume gradually will show spam filtering system that you're the same sender, that you're still legitimate sender, and that this is your database that is growing fast and that you have not been compromised. And regarding the list segmentation, the important thing I want to mention on this call is that everyone needs to do the list segmentation based on the locations, based on the property types, price point, age, preferences, and even email service providers. So if you have a list of Gmail users, Outlook users, Hotmail users, Yahoo users, that will be perfect, because this will allow you to understand how different email servers within different segmented groups receive your emails and how they interact with your emails, where you have better email open rates, which servers, like users from which servers interact with your emails better, because this is something is very important as well. And
I just want to bring Kyler in quickly on this point, because so within Follow Up Boss, obviously the easiest way, or one of the better ways to segment is through tagging. So with tags, you can filter different ways. There's no way to filter right now based on a domain name or an email carrier right now in Follow Up Boss, is there?
Not email carrier, but you can by domain name. So if you do the filter email and then contains, you could type like @gmail.com or @Yahoo. That's about as specific as it gets.
Okay.
So,
but that would be a great way.
Yeah.
Because so what Follow Up, if you are in Follow Up Boss, that's great. If not, you should be. It is the best CRM out there. So, but within, what I do is when I'm sending out mass emails, there's a report that shows for every mass email campaign that you do, you get a report. So in that report, it will tell you how many bounced emails that are there. And every time it shows up, I click on the bounced email number and it brings up those emails that were bounced. I then specifically go through and figure out why or what's going on with those people. Like, why was it just a one-off? Maybe their mailbox is full, or is it something that they haven't been opening them ever, or whatever the situation is? Maybe I need to change their stage. And for me, how I do it too is I got to remove my segment tags, because I'm filtering who I'm sending those emails out by those segment tags. So I got to take those tags off and get rid of them. But that makes sure the next time I'm sending out an email address or email mailing, that my deliverability is getting better and better each time.
Yes.
So if you really need every single time you send out a mass email, you need to go in and look at the report under reports, what your bounce number was. And the goal obviously is to have 0, and that's part of when you're segmenting it down too every day, that you're only sending 300 or 400 emails, you might only get 3 or 4 bounces. Where if you send 5,000 out, you get a ton of bounces and it would take you a long time to go through it. So I've sort of created the routine now, set my emails up, they get delivered every day. I go through every day to look at my bounces, and then the next month, all of a sudden now there's only 1 bounce instead of 6 like there was last month. So that's some good advice to how to segment your database. We still can send out mass emails. It's not saying that we can't be doing it. It's just doing it in the right way to make sure are important emails, because the sending out a newsletter is good, but if you're sending out something that's important to that person and it doesn't get to them, that's going to be an issue.
Yes, yes. And the same with content. So it doesn't make any sense for you if you have a database and you have seniors and millennials in your database, it won't be reasonable for you to send the same email to seniors and to millennials. This is why it's important to do the list segmentation, because definitely if millennials get the email the same that seniors got, most likely they will mark your email as spam because the content will not be relevant to them. A very good thing. So it's a problem when they mark your emails as spam. This is a problem for the domain reputation and for your company in general. The same when emails are getting bounced back, because if you have the bounce back rate more than 3%, this will affect the domain reputation, and you will need to recover it back to the high level. And there are actually tools that allow you to monitor your bounce, your domain reputation, your spam report complaints rate, and stuff like that. So this kind of information. And even Yahoo, they recently announced a new Yahoo Postmaster tool that, if it's configured correctly in your DNS zone, you will start receiving notification with email addresses about who exactly manually mark your email as spam, which will allow you to eliminate those people from your newsletter. Because if I'm sending email to you and you mark my email as spam, what is the sense in continue sending emails to you? Because after the first attempt to mark my email as spam, the second one will hit your inbox folder again, and you again mark my email as spam. And every time when you do so, this will affect my deliverability and domain reputation. And the domain reputation can be monitored through the Google Postmaster tool, because we have everyone in the email industry, they know the list of tools that allow you to monitor their reputation, spam report complaints rate, and you have a similar tool for almost every email provider, like Google, Yahoo Postmaster tool, Microsoft junk mail reporting program, Comcast Postmaster tool, and stuff like that. So by configuring all of these tools in your DNS zone, you have access to all of this important information that allow you not only to improve the list segmentation, but also to eliminate people who consistently mark your email as spam, and this will improve your deliverability.
Alex, thank you so much. I'm going to put a thumbtack in it. We'll get back to you. I know Enlay has a hard close at 1, so I want to go into Enlay and Kyler to discuss more on the phone side, so texting and calling. So, one of the, especially, Kyler, you get these all the time, I'm sure, is, my ISA's phone number is marked as spam. So let's talk a little bit. What does it mean? How does it happen?
Yeah. So what it means is simply that you're marked as spam. So when you're calling, it will show something like spam likely, scam likely. Each carrier reflects it a little bit differently, but you get the gist of it. It's showing spam when you're calling people who don't have your number saved. When texting, in follow-up BOSH, you'll get an orange badge that will say like carrier filtered. Now, it's might be a little bit different if you're using another system for texting. There's a specific error code in the back end for like each carrier kind of decides what they're going to reflect that as. But simply your text is not delivered, it got filtered. how it happens. So there's a couple different ways it can happen. One, the carrier themselves can filter you. So the carriers have tons of different filters in the back end where they're looking for calling behavior. Are you getting a lot of people hanging up on you really fast? Are you calling people back to back without leaving voicemails? So they're looking at that kind of stuff. The got a little echo there. The other way that you can get flagged as spam, and this is going to go for calling and texting, is if the person flags you as spam. So there's a lot of different ways that the person you're texting can flag you. They can flag you through the carrier. If you have iPhone specifically and you ever go to like delete a thread, it will actually ask you, hey, is this person, is this spam? Is this junk? If they hit that, that reports it back to the carrier saying, hey, this person flagged this person as spam. Now, in a case like that, you'll never even see that they reported you as spam, but the carrier sees that. Another way is if they're texting stop or cancel to opt out, that's going to indicate to the carrier that you probably don't have permission to contact that person if they're opting out. So that's just a couple different ways that it happens. Either the carrier's looking at certain behavior or the person themselves is just flagging you.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
so I'm going to jump in as well.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
there's three main spam marking companies that carriers use to mark people as spam. The first is called First Orion, the second is Haya, and the third is TNS. And they monitor the traffic on each of these different carriers. And there's a few rules that they look at. So first is, as Kyler mentioned, if someone marked you as spam, and typically, this is legitimate if you want to stop someone from contacting you. But a lot of times it happens because you're using a Twilio number or a number that's a voice over IP company provided number that someone has either spoofed, meaning they've done robocalls and your number shows up. The second is if it's also an old number which has not gone through a cooldown period. So sometimes these providers give you numbers or issue numbers that have not been inactive for say 90 to 120 days, and you get someone
I
else's.
know, Kyler. I know you've seen that. I've seen it on the thread where somebody's got a brand new number and it's already marked spam, and that's the exact reason. Is sometimes what's happening right now is because we're churning through phone numbers so fast and so many, we're reducing the cooldown period between using them. So, if you're in an area code of specifically like a really high population, high use, and there's not a lot of phone numbers in that area code left, you're going to be churning through them a lot faster than a area code where there isn't a lot of phone numbers, and that has a much longer cooling off period. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also, this is an interesting one, but we've actually seen these spam detecting companies marking even new VoIP numbers as spam out of the box. And the reason is that it's so easy to get VoIP numbers that these illegitimate actors just switch numbers. And so it makes it hard for those new numbers now to be detected as spam. And so by default, they're actually marked as spam. And I'll tell you a couple of ways of how to get out of that that jail in a little bit. But but I think by default, cellular numbers have better reputations to start because no mobile operator wants their numbers to be marked as spam. So if you are able to send out text using your phone, or if you are able to make calls out with your cell phone number, the chances of you being marked for spam is also much lower. And also the VoIP companies that you're using probably offer what's known as a stir shaken token. And a stir shaken token is used in the industry now to communicate the legitimacy of phone calls. So if your provider is not turning on stir shaken tokens for you, then by default, they will receive an attestation C as opposed to an A or a B, or no token at all. And so your provider has to use the information to determine whether or not to show you mark as spam. And by default, if they're trying to be overly protective, which we have seen on the mobile operators, they'll just mark you as spam. So you want to be marked as A, attestation A, and so check with your VoIP provider if they're marking you as A.
Yeah, it's interesting that, phones are following the same sort of protocols, and the technology is getting better as it is with email. So as the technology gets better, it's easier and easier to mark people legitimately as spam, which is a great thing. But we just need to make sure us that's trying to communicate to a database isn't falling into those traps where we're going to be perceived or interpreted as spam, which is why, that's why it was so important to have this webinar today, because at least then we can do the best that we can do. If we don't have the knowledge and people are out just doing the way things used to be, it's not going to work anymore. So as the technology changes and gets better, we need to make sure, and this is so important because I can't stress enough how important it is that we're getting our messages delivered. Otherwise, we're just spending money and wasting so much time. So for me, this 1 hour and reaching out to Alex or getting more information on these things to make sure we are doing everything we can to get these our messages out to our leads. So, and what about on texting though? Is there anything specific that we need to be careful of? Phrases, like I see, like if I'm sending an email with emoji or a text message with emojis, does that matter? If I'm sending a text message with a link, does that matter? Do certain words matter? Maybe you guys can go a little bit on that too.
Very similar to emailing, a lot of your financial words are going to trip up spam filters. Cash offer specifically is pretty much always going to get you filtered if you're using a VoIP number. I've seen mortgage, loan, interest rates, all those kind of words are typically going to catch them up. And I know it's hard, especially the industry that most of you are in. These words are crucial. But at the end of the day, these carriers are trying to protect their clients, and they're just filtering certain words based on scams that they've seen along those words. Urgency words, act now, call now, free in all caps, stuff like that. That's going to get you flagged. Links, I always try to tell people avoid links as much as you can. Those typically catch up the spam filters. If you have to send a link, a original URL is always going to be better than a shortened URL. So not using something like bit.ly to shorten that URL. And emojis do get filtered. I will say, if you've established back and forth communication, emojis are a little bit less likely to get you filtered. But if it's, your first text that you're sending off to somebody after they reached out on your website or something, just avoid them because they're going to tend to get you flagged. And I'll let you go ahead and
yeah, no, thank you. That's a great list. So if you're using software, find software that will enable you to personalize. So if you can say at least hi name, as opposed to sending identical messages, I think that is one way to avoid these spam traps. The second is the frequency. So you want it as much as possible to look like a human is sending the text message as opposed to a machine. And so the human rates are typically a few messages per minute. So imagine the fastest you can text is probably the fastest that the spam filters you want to avoid will throttle, because what they don't want to do is also to throttle legitimate messages. So that's the second thing, is make sure that the software you're using enables you to send the messages over a period of time as opposed to sending a high volume of messages quickly. I think what Kyler said earlier with regards to URLs makes sense. You want to use URLs that are not shortened if possible. So if possible, don't use a link shortener that people you can get online that you shorten a link with, because those are not personal and they're not personal to your company. They're just general link shorteners. So if you can avoid those link shorteners. And I think have an opt-out, respect opt-out. So if somebody texts you stop or buy, there's a few keywords in an industry that you should be respecting. Don't keep texting them, because that's when the person's going to report you as spam. So put yourself in a human's position. Typically, it takes a few more clicks for them to report you as spam. It takes a few more clicks to block you. It's a lot easier for them to say stop, buy, or even profanity. They'd rather do that than to hit a few clicks to block you. So that's your opportunity to not make them more angry. Respect that, and hopefully they won't report you as spam.
Okay, let's quickly talk about, I know you're pushed for time. So what happens if my phone is marked as spam? Is there anything I can do? Is there a get out of free jail card for my phone if I'm marked identified as spam?
Not necessarily. I mean, the first step when it comes to getting marked as spam, whether we're talking calls marked as spam or text marked as spam, is you really need to look at your calling or texting behavior and identify if you are doing something that would cause a carrier to flag you as spam. So things like, cold calling and cold texting and war dialing. There's a lot of coaches out there that promote it, and I'm not saying it doesn't work. However, Follow Up Boss is not designed for it. And if you are planning to do something like that, take it to a system that is designed for it and keep it separate from your main number. Because if your main number gets flagged as spam, it can be fairly hard to remove that label, especially if you're using that number for, kind of these practices, cold calling, cold texting, things like that. For calling specifically, you can reach out to the carriers. We just use Free Caller Registry, but you can go through Hiya, First Orion, and kind of reach out and ask them to remove that label. For texting, typically when you're getting flagged texting, there's usually a texting behavior that is causing it to happen. I very rarely see people get flagged wrongfully. So typically you just need to change that texting behavior. If you're using Follow Up Boss specifically, feel free to reach out to support and we can take a look at those messages and kind of try to help you, navigate you and coach you a little bit. In the event that you are getting flagged and you aren't doing anything wrong, or let's say you were doing something wrong, but you changed that behavior, and for whatever reason, the flag isn't lifting. Usually it will lift itself as long as you change the behavior, but for whatever reason it isn't lifting, it is super important to have your business registration approved, and you need to still be compliant. So what I mean by that is, when you fill out the business registration, you're giving your EIN, your business name, you're having a compliant website that has great opt-in, very clear that you're going to be reaching out to the people when they enter their information. If you're getting flagged, we can reach out to the carrier to try to have it appealed so they can lift any blocks on your text. When that happens, they will not even look at an appeal if that business registration is approved. It's called Business Registration Follow Up Boss. If you're using another system, it may be called like A2P registration, but it's all kind of the same thing. That needs to be approved, and they're also going to check to make sure your website is still compliant. So you can't get it approved once and then change your website back or get a new website that's no longer compliant, because they will look when they're appealing it and they're going to say, hey, the website's no longer compliant. We can't help you until it is. Yeah, I'll let Enlai go on and add to that.
No, that's a great list. There's another site in addition to Free Caller Registry. So definitely, as Kyler mentioned, get yourself on freecallerregistry.com. Get your phone numbers that you're calling out from on freecallerregistry.com. The second site is called calltransparency.com, and this is First Orion's site. You may or may not be able to put your number on there yourself, but if you don't, definitely get the companies that are providing you with the number to put them or get them to put your number on calltransparency.com. So the other things you could do are, again, check with your provider that they're using a Stir Shaken token. That's the first thing. The second thing is get your CNAM, which is the caller identification that shows up when you call, to your name. So otherwise, it's either going to be blank or some just show your state. And also that potentially make somebody not answer your phone. So check that your name is showing up, and you can get any provider that's providing you with the number should be able to change it and make it show your name. There's another product called branded calling, which some companies are using, but typically it's used by companies because there's a cost to every phone call that you make. What it does is it actually overrides any of the reputation scores that would show up on your phone. So regardless of what reputation your number might have, you actually get a branded call. So people see your name, your company's name, even a photo of you on some devices, and this will help a number that's already been marked as spam. But again, there is a cost to it, and typically it requires an organization to sign up. So like a company, like a brokerage, to do it as opposed to an individual. And then don't use robo-dialers with your main number, especially if it's going to dial simultaneously to different endpoints. So some of these dialers try to save you time by making phone calls to multiple people at the same time. But the problem is that, and then when the first person picks up, it hangs up the call on all the other people, and then connects you with that person. So the goal is to save you time. But the problem is that because of the dialing patterns, because it's physically impossible for a human to be calling multiple phone numbers with the same phone number at a time, it triggers the spam warning to go up on your phone number. And then I think the last thing, again, if you want to avoid it, is use your mobile number. And I think that's, yeah. And then if you're 10DLC, I think, Kyler, I don't know if you mentioned about 10DLC already with the registration.
Yeah.
For your number.
Yes. Yeah. We call business registration 10DLC or ATP, which is application to person. That's going to be any VoIP number that you're using, where it's not your cell phone, which is person to person.
Awesome.
What was I going to add to that? Oh, Follow Up Boss. If you are a Follow Up Boss user, you can go to followupboss.com/CallTrust. That's going to be our version of branded CallTrust. You can join the wait list, and then we'll reach out to you when it's time to get onboarded. That is 6 cents per call charge, and like you mentioned, it is a team thing, so it has to reflect the team name. And it's super important, like any system you're using, if you are picking out like a caller ID or a display name, it needs to be relevant and not deceptive, right? So you don't want it to just say something that's going to get somebody to answer the phone, like, I don't know, something random. Like, make it relevant to you or your business. It's got to relate to you.
So yeah, Kyler, I know. So yeah, that's not working in Canada, the trust thing, unfortunately, just for those that are Canadian too. I know the amend, we've been told to sort of hold off. I think it's not running as smoothly and as perfect as as Follow Up Boss has hoped. So you would be on a waiting list. I don't know how fast that waiting list is moving right now, but they've sort of told us to slow down on the recommendations of it, because it's just again, it's like everything else, right? There's technology and you're paying money for something, and if the back end technology changes and they haven't changed, you could still be getting marked spam even though you have it and you're paying for it, and then there's going to be issues, right? So
absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. It is actually, US is kind of on pause right now too. We just had some issues where the carriers weren't able to accurately display names, and it's like, paying for something like this, we don't want to have people signing up where it's not showing. And kind of the last thing that I just wanted to mention is that you can have your display name showing, you can have your business registration approved, but if you're not following the best practices, that we've been talking about on this webinar, you can and will still get flagged as spam. So those aren't like a foolproof where you can just do whatever you want after that. It will happen. You will get flagged. And so just keep in best practices, contact quality leads that would expect to hear from you, give content that is relevant that people are going to want to hear, and you should be good.
That's awesome. Yeah, is there anything else with texting and voice before we get bumped back to emails for a little bit more that you want to touch base on? Because I did see a question in here, Kyler. So if you're calling through a smart list, would that affect anything?
No. So smart list is fine. It just depends on the quality of the lead, of course.
Right.
So if you like import a cold list of leads and you're using the automatic dialer on those, well, that's not okay. But if these are people that have somehow opted in, to hear from you, whether it's on like a Zillow or your website, or you run into them in person and they talk to you, like that's fine. Quality of the lead is kind of the most important thing here when you're reaching out.
Yeah, because Club's dialer is not like a robo dialer. It's only calling one at a time. It's following the rules, the best practices. So,
Yeah.
as long as you're calling, you're right. As long as you're calling the right people through the dialer, you're not going to have an issue.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. And Lai, if you have to go, I totally understand.
No problem.
But,
Actually, I did
yeah,
have
yeah,
a
for sure. Yeah.
did have a question for our Alex, for our email expert.
Okay, perfect.
So so one of the things that we do, and we want to know if it really is necessary, is we never send emails from our main domain, and or our email addresses that people could potentially mark as spam. So it's unavoidable that someone's gonna mark you as spam, especially if you're sending out for a list. And so, and we don't want our entire domain to be marked for spam if people start doing that, because obviously it affects our personal emails as well, company emails. Do we need a separate domain, or will a subdomain work? So we've seen companies that send out emails from list.domain.com or m.domain.com. Is that a good way to do it, or do we need a separate domain? And the other question is, do we need to warm up emails? So if we're sending out emails from accounts that don't typically send out, a bunch of emails, what do you think about creating new email addresses and then warming them up and then using those as email addresses?
Yeah, thank you. So these are very good questions, to be honest, and this is something that I always ask about. The main thing regarding the separate domain is that I know there are a lot of companies doing so, and this is a very good practice. However, having a separated subdomain will be more beneficial for you, because technically your emails will be originating from the original domain name, from the same domain name, so that you will be able to monitor your domain reputation, your email trust score, your IP reputation for only one domain, because all the subdomains will be included in the reputation of your primary domain. If you have a separate domain, this can make you a problem with deliverability, because let's imagine the situation that you always send emails from my domain name, which is sh.consulting, right? So I consistently send emails to my database from a@sh.consulting, and then suddenly I start sending emails from another domain that I own, which is sh.company. And this can be a trigger for the spam filtering systems, and they will get the notification for their recipients that be careful with this email, because Alex has never sent you emails with this domain name. And this can be a potential spoofing attack, because right now, if you have a domain sh.consulting, anyone technically can go to GoDaddy to purchase the similar domain to yours, like sh.company, and start sending emails on behalf of your company, like representing themselves as you. They can set your profile picture, they can send your email signature, your name, and stuff like that. And this will be very suspicious to the incoming email service, which is why sending emails from the separate domain name is highly not recommended, as long as you contact these people from the primary domain name. However, if you send your emails from the subdomain, this is not something that will ever happen to you. However, if you don't send a lot of emails, and if your email sending volume is not millions of mails per month, I don't think it will be reasonable for you to set up a subdomain, because it will be it doesn't bring any kind of benefits for your reputation. If you have the subdomain marked as spam, there is a probability that this will affect negatively to your domain reputation of your primary domain, which is why it's important to maintain the reputation for your domains, to follow all possible email marketing best practices and stuff like that.
And it sounds like that's a bit of a catch-22, right? So if you use another name, then that's a potential problem, and if you use your existing name, that's a problem too. But I think by what Alex is saying is using your proper domain name makes the most sense as long as you're monitoring it. And you're like, as long as you're yes, you can, but it's okay to get marked as spam. There is a certain percentage that you're allowed before it's going to get identified, right? Like Alex, it's a certain percentage. It's not one off. It's going to ruin your whole domain, isn't it?
Yeah, but this percentage is very small. So if 2 out of 1,000 of emails that you send manually your email as spam, this will negatively affect your domain reputation, because the maximum percent that is allowed for spam report complaints rate is 0.3%. But this is the number that Google, if you open the Google documentation, they will highly recommend you to never exceed 0.3, but always maintain below 0.2%. So this is important.
Thank you. I have to drop.
Actually,
Thank you.
yeah, and like, can you just quickly talk about your program, your software that your AI for your phone? Because I would love to let the viewers hear about it, because it's pretty cool software.
No, thank you. So we have software that connects with Follow Up Boss. We connect your cell phone calls with Follow Up Boss. So all of your cell phone conversations automatically get transcribed, recorded, summarized. Action items will get extracted. Calendar events will get put in your calendar, and everything just shows up in Follow Up Boss without you having to do any manual note taking or data entry.
That's so cool.
Yep. So productive.ai. Yeah. Oops, sorry, Kyler, go ahead.
Does that include text too, or just calls?
So text will be coming. So iMessages, text, WhatsApp messages will also show up in Follow Up Boss from your for your cell phone number.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll provide you guys with a webinar code to get a discount.
That's awesome.
So we'll, I guess, check your emails. Thanks to Mark for Mark's arranging this for you guys. So we'll get you guys a discount code.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for your time today. You've been awesome. It's a great support.
And yep, absolutely. And then if you guys need to get a hold of me, or if you have any questions, it's Enlai. So ENLAI at productive.ai.
You can just drop it in the chat, and then
Yeah. Or Mark will know how to get it.
Yeah, it's good. You'll have your contact in the email. Like, I'll send out an email with all the highlights from this recording, and because now with the AI recording, it's amazing.
That's where we're going.
If you're not using Fathom, it's free and it's amazing for Zoom. So it makes my life so easy when I'm meeting with clients. Within 1 minute of ending a Zoom call, I can send them a transcript, the highlights, and actually the recording of the Zoom call. So there's lots of them out there, but I've been liking Fathom. So Kyler, you can stay or go. It's up to you. There's keep an eye on the questions. Thank you for answering any questions in the chat. And Alex, so yeah, we did have a couple more things to talk about. Okay, let's because I saw a couple things in chat too. So there's different ways to be sending your emails, right? So you have your email address set out. I can send emails through my CRM, so through Follow Up Boss, or I could through any of the other CRMs. So let's just talk first about CRMs. Does it matter which CRM I'm sending my emails through? Is there, is there one that's really bad and one that's really good, or are they all exactly the same?
Actually, CRM doesn't really matter, but what is most important is the email infrastructure, which is connected to the CRM system. And I know that Follow Up Boss, they have SendGrid infrastructure on the back end, which is perfect, which will allow you to the most important thing in the email deliverability is the full alignment between your mail from, return path, and linked domains. And Follow Up Boss, with their SendGrid infrastructure, they allow you to achieve this full alignment. If we discuss, let's say, MailChimp, for example, or Flowdesk.
This is what I'm trying to get to is, and Kyler, you certainly can help as well. If I have a Follow Up Boss account, does it make sense to have a MailChimp account or SendGrid account or all these extra costs? Or is Follow Up Boss already have a lot of those things, or maybe even better than providing from, if you're sending out emails, what would the advantage be to send it from MailChimp? Or is there any, or actually is it a disadvantage?
Yeah, so definitely, if you already pay for Follow-Up, there is no need for you to have a separate system. Of course, you can have one because, for example, Mailchimp will allow you to generate like fancy email templates, fancy email newsletters with images, with text, with call to action buttons and stuff like that. But this can actually be achieved with Follow-Up because since recent, I believe probably 6 or 7 months, they support HTML templates, and you can easily go to MailChimp, or you can hire a you can hire a HTML template designer who will design a code for your newsletter, and you will simply copy and paste that code in your Follow-Up account, in your Follow-Up CRM system, and you will send the same fancy email marketing newsletter, the same as you could have sent from MailChimp or Flowdesk. But the reason why you have to do this through the Follow-Up CRM system is because you can achieve the full alignment on the backend, and this is not something that MailChimp or Flowdesk or Constant Contact or MailerLite. So there are a lot of systems that do not allow you to align your return path with Mailfront, with linked domains, and the email durability and the email placement will be a way better for the emails that are being sent to the Follow-Up instead of MailChimp. So this is why I personally always send email through Follow-Up. I don't have any kind of MailChimp or other accounts. However, at the same time, I understand the importance for other people to create fancy templates and not ability and inability to hire freelancers to generate a custom template for any occasion.
Yeah, look, and this is why I wanted to bring it up because, I'm about saving money too. There's, we all have a lot of expenses in the tech stack, and that's what my last webinar was about, was tech stack too, and about making sure our tech stack is up to date and that we're not paying for things that become obsolete. So really, like, I don't understand why anybody would have MailChimp right now when Follow-Up Boss does as good or not even better job. And certainly, I know there's companies that will provide. So just for an example, almost all of my emails in my follow-up campaigns have been updated with HTML. So, and actually, that's a question we'll talk about as well. What is there deliverability issues between HTML and straight up text? But what I did notice is from our experience, I haven't noticed a difference in the open rates or bounce rates between a regular text email and an HTML. But what I have noticed is an increase in the click rate on the links. So what I envision is that because those are buttons, or like how people normally click a link in regular HTML as opposed to a hyperlink, I think people are hesitant on clicking on a hyperlink in a standard email. So my click rate has gone at least triple what we were, which for me is huge because now they're actually seeing the content that I wanted them to see. I'm driving them back to my website and helping to create SEO, and they're getting better content as opposed to when we were just sending up straight text emails with hyperlinks in them. So, and also, they look a lot better and they're a lot more professional, and it's branded with our colors.
Mm-hmm.
So again, keeping, from a marketing side, keeping our branding and our marketing the same through our website, through our emails, through every single thing is important, because when they see those, they're making the connection. And, especially like this is what I'm all about right now, is following up and making sure we're remarketing to all those leads in the database, that they're seeing videos of us and our branding. So by the time we do talk to them, even if we haven't talked to them yet, they already know who we are. It's not like, I'm finding our phone calls now are better, that they're not cold calls, because they've already seen us like 35 times in the last week.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Alex, you want to go on it, but on more?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So sending fancy email templates is a very great strategy, because this allows you to build your branding for all of those people who you send emails to. However, from the email deliverability perspective, it's your email open rates and your email placement will be way better for the plain text emails because there are some systems like Outlook, like Microsoft, and all of the Outlook users, for example, when you send your fancy email template with links, with images, and stuff like that to the Outlook users, by default, their inbox folder configured the way to hide all the embedded images in the
Right.
email template. So they only what they see
What are you doing, man?
is text.
What? Of course not.
Somebody's unmuted. I can't see who it is. Hold on. Can you mute them? Oh, it's Aristotle. Where is he?
Sorry, sorry.
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, Aristotle. Yeah, me. Thanks. Okay.
All right. So,
Sorry.
yeah, so this is why it's critical important to understand who you send emails to which inbox folders, and to which types of users. This is why in the very beginning of our conversation, I suggested to segment the list based on the email accounts, based on the type of email account. Because Gmail users, by default, they have the images active
Right.
for all emails that go into the inbox folder. But the Outlook, Hotmail, Office 365 users, they need to manually turn on this feature to be able to see all the images in your email. And this can be a problem for the tracking, for the email statistic, because the email tracking pixel, this is transparent image that has a size 1:1 pixel. And when you have the images hidden from the inbox folder, the email tracking pixel is not being activated. As a result, you cannot confirm that that person opened your email, but in fact, that person opened your email, but you don't have any kind of proofs. This is why when I send my newsletter, for example, I always have a list of people who can send me the reply, but they will not be shown as the people who opened my emails because my email tracking pixels had been hidden from their inbox folder.
There, we just earned in that one quick sentence. I just earned my keep for today because that's amazing information that yeah, certainly that I didn't know, but it's good to understand that, you know, maybe we want to pixel out who gets what type of emails. Yeah, because obviously, again, I get it that they just get a square box with that there's an image there. They have to actually click on it to open it up, accept it and click on it to open it up. And again, probably a lot of people won't be doing that. So, yeah, so from on the HTML side, if you're interested in getting HTMLs, I'm going to send a marketing expert's link and information on that. She sells HTML email templates in packages. So for example, if you wanted 20 of your emails turned into HTML, take the 20 that you most like within your drip campaigns, send her the text, your branding and logo, and then what links you want to send for each email. Don't do any more than 3 links. Try to keep it to 1 or 2 links per email, and then send it to her. And you know, one of 2 things: either she can send it back to you, or if you give it to me, I can, and you give me access to your follow-up boss, I can go in and replace it quick enough, easy enough to.
Cool. The important thing that I want to mention regarding the HTML templates and follow-up boss is that as far as I know, the follow-up boss currently does not support style blocks in the HTML code, which means if you're simply go to the MailChimp or BeFree or other providers, copy the code and paste it into the follow-up boss, it will not look as great as it can have been looked on the MailChimp account.
Yeah, there is testing that needs to get done. So that's why you know, when you're doing it yourself, you need to send it to yourself first, because you're for sure, and I know this, but once they figure it out and once the template's done properly, you're never going to have to do it again. So like if it's a template that's in your email drip campaigns, once it's done, it's there forever, and it's going to be there for all of your emails. But each time she creates one, I know it needs to get tested to make sure, you know, to make sure everything's correct because Follow Up Boss does some funky stuff to it. And then, yeah, then, once it's done, it's correct. But if you're going to do it on your own, it's going to take a long time you'll probably have to do 5, 6, 7 different versions of it to make sure your blocks are all aligned, because you'll see, stuff gets shifted for some reason. So I brought it up to, I don't know, Kyler, if you know, I brought it up to Follow Up Boss. I know they're looking into it. I don't know nobody seems to know what the reason is on the back end, or I couldn't get an answer for it, but I know they're working on it.
But there is actually a solution that, and the only what you need to do is to transform your style blocks into the inline style in the HTML code. In that case, all of your email templates will look great as they look in B3.
It's in style?
Yeah, so you have to just, because Follow Up Boss, they support inline style. This is why you replace all the style blocks with the inline style blocks. And this will work great. So this is something to check.
Okay. Perfect. What else did I have to just touch base on? Yeah, I think unless Kyler or Alex, do you have anything else? And then we can maybe quick, I don't know, Jan, if you've been keeping track of any questions we haven't touched base, maybe you can. Kyler and Alex have been awesome all the way through, so thank you so much. Yeah, Alex, did you have any final advice? I know you can talk about this all day.
Yes, that's true. So basically, monitor your domain reputation, your spam trigger words, your email templates, your links, and a lot of marketing stuff. And of course, make sure that your email server is configured correctly, because without the properly configured email server, you will not even have a chance to get into the inbox folder of your potential buyer or seller. This is why all the marketing best practices that Kyler mentioned regarding domain shorteners, like link shorteners, like Bitly or stuff like that, have to be eliminated from your email templates. Yeah, and you have to monitor everything using the tools like Postmaster, Yahoo Postmaster, spam junk mail reporting program by Microsoft. So once you finish this webinar, I have a list of tools prepared for all of the participants, and I will send that email to everyone so that you'll be able to access all of those tools and implement them in your systems.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been amazing. I think it's been probably one of the more informative sessions we've had. I know we're a little bit over time, but so thank you for everybody that's joined. This has been so far our largest webinar group. And I know you can type in the chat where you're from if you're still on and you want the time, but I know we have from coast to coast, north to south, we've got lots of Canadians, lots of Floridians, some California, Ohio, so yeah, all over the place, so that's great. Just know, mark in your calendars, 4 weeks from today, we will be doing another webinar. I'm going to be doing this once a month. They're always free. Try to bring in the best experts in the world to help us all build our businesses. So right now I don't have a topic for next week. So if you want to send me an email, if you have any suggestions, anything that you would like to see more information on, anything on the tech side, because that's sort of been my passion, but anything within real estate, I will try to bring the best experts that I can find, and we'll have another great free webinar session. So I'll be sending out all this information. I'll send a copy of the video out to all of you. And yeah, please check out our website if you're looking for any real estate coaching or any Follow Up Boss and Ylopo coaching. I provide that as well. So I can certainly go in and help you set up your Follow Up Boss in your Ylopo accounts. I know, Kyler, for sure there's other people that are out there that do it. I try to do it a little bit more, not generic and not vanilla. Same with coaching. It's more boutique style, tailored to the individual. I just believe, there's good cookie cutter vanilla options that are out there, but I'm, anybody that knows me, like, I like rules, and I always say within the rules, down the middle of the road is not where I'm walking. I'm walking along the fence lines. So, so being a little bit different is okay, and that's where I fall into the realm. So, Thank you all again. Kyler, you've been amazing. Alex, amazing as well. You guys are just awesome. I appreciate all the time you took for us and all the prep work that you've been putting into this. And guys, look into your inboxes. We'll be getting this information out. And feel free to reach out to any of us if you do have any more questions, because we want to get these messages out to our leads and get some more business out there. So everyone be safe. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Bye.